Just doing a bit of a quick check-in today. I don't have all the time in the world for this live stream, but I wanted to just check in with everyone because we were all running for our lives from a Category 1 hurricane that was somehow oddly destructive and displaced a lot of people, despite not being nearly as strong as a lot of storms that have come through over the past couple of years. So we're alive. We're back as per usual. There's nobody on yet. I'm talking like there is because eventually people will go back and rewatch this. So you don't want me sitting here in silence. If it takes people a little while to hop on, a little more so than usual, that won't be too strange. A lot of people in Houston are still without power. I think the number I saw the other day was Centerpoint Energy claims that there are less than, I think it was like 270,000 people. Like, there's less than 270,000 people without power now. Yay. And it's like, that's a lot of people. Like, a lot. And apparently their mapping system was complete nonsense. Serp Fishing is on, says, what's up, man? Not a whole lot. Getting a bit of a slower start to the live stream than usual, which is partially expected due to the sudden nature of it, and then of course the fact that so many people, there we go, people are hopping on now, so many people are still without power. Even if I had advertised this thing for days, this live stream or the next couple of videos, probably not going to get the same amount of people watching unless they're watching from somewhere other than home. TR's World Vacuum says, I've arrived. Surf Fishing comments again, says, missed the last live stream, but I did go back and watch it. Excited about more frequent uploads. Yes, I've done several. I'll talk about that in a second. I haven't uploaded them yet. I filmed them. Token Play says, oh yeah, my boy. Nathaniel says, hope all is well, man. Yeah, things are a lot better now. You can see I'm back home. You'll see a lot of what I was going through in the last video I filmed. I did manage to film a pretty big video, actually. It's a longer one. During the evacuation, I was able to film, and some of the evacuation stuff and the hurricane stuff is highlighted in that video because it has to be to explain why I am where I am. So, but yeah, we're back now. A week later, the power's back on. Everything Hate says, is this still a fishing channel? It never was. Never was a fishing channel. It's a conservation channel that uses fishing because there's not really any other way to film some of the fish, or the majority of the fish, honestly, in Texas freshwater. But it has never been a fishing channel. It's been a channel about the conservation of a lot of aquatic animals, and fishing has been the most convenient way to film them for a long time. I was actually just watching someone's Instagram today, and they were up north, and they were filming, I reposted this, they were filming just underwater species because the water was so clear. And I was like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. Fishing is just a way to get things on camera. So is this a fishing channel? No, it never has been. We just fish because that's the way I put animals on camera most of the time. Let's see. I'm trying to keep my phone from falling off this camera stand. Tian Van Herden says, when you're going to another country to fish? When will I be going to another country to fish? Well, right now I'm just trying to get everything stabilized, back to normal after this storm. That's my main priority, and then it's going to be to replace my car, which I wanted to have done by now, but again, having to evacuate from the storm and spend an enormous amount of money making sure we had a place to stay and everything for a long time, supplies for the storm, like, kind of cut into replacing that car as quickly as I wanted. So my car is the main concern. As far as when I'm going to another country, it just depends. Depends on who I'm talking to, whether or not it's convenient. You'll notice a lot of guys. This is actually something that's just started, just came up and became relevant with Cavi, who's like my favorite YouTuber who fishes on YouTube, and he came to the United States actually and did some fishing in Florida and I want to say Colorado. I can't remember. It was in the mountains. I don't know if he's still in America filming, but those are the last couple uploads I'd seen. And those videos are not reaching the same numbers as his normal videos do. And that is a very common thing when you have YouTubers, even really big ones, like guys with 1 million subscribers, which is very rare in the niche of fishing or filming that I do, which is a lot of fishing stuff. When they go to other countries, you do not see the videos perform as well. So the diehard fans will watch no matter what you do, and then the overall like majority of your audience wants more of the same. Neil Gaiman talked about that quite a lot. He was talking about that in an interview about Star Wars a couple of decades ago. Somebody was asking him about Star Wars, and he was saying that the push to get Star Wars made was so difficult because it was so radically different, and people are always wanting more of the same. And then the moment Star Wars came out, instead of people being like, you know what, that original sci-fi story, fantasy sci-fi story that was completely different than anything we'd ever seen was so amazing. Let's let other people do new things. Instead of that response, everyone was like, no, just more Star Wars. Make it just like Star Wars. What we need is another copy of Star Wars. And it's like it was that kind of thinking that stopped Star Wars from being made for so long. And the same thing kind of happens to even internet stuff. People don't like it when you branch out of your normal content. My dog is tearing up a paper ball next to me. If you're wondering what that ripping sound is, people don't like it when you do different kinds of content. They want you to do the same thing over and over and over. Most people, probably not anyone who's on the live stream, definitely not anyone who's on the Patreon, but most people in general just want more of the same. They will go to the same restaurant, order the same thing every time. They want their YouTubers to upload the same kind of stuff. So as far as when I'm going to another country, I'm not really sure. Jesse Wagner says, you stay safe and dry, question mark, question mark, question mark. Mostly is the answer to both of those. I stayed pretty safe. So with it's weird that Hurricane Beryl coming through as a Category 1 sent, I don't want to say sent everyone into a panic because that's not really what happened. It legitimately hurt a lot of people. Took the power down. You know, food and water were gone from a lot of places for a while. Gasoline dried up real fast. And that's more out of necessity than panic. You could say, like, oh, people panicked and they all went and got gasoline. It's like, well, they kind of had to because they had to leave because their power went out. And it's South Texas. You know, it's not like Colorado in the summer where you can survive without your, AC or heater. Or, like a lot of countries where you don't have like really advanced insulating systems like the UK. This is South Texas. This is Houston, where it gets well over 100 degrees. And when the power goes out, it becomes legitimately deadly for people, especially people who are older, much younger, and for pets. I know, I saved you. I did. Here's your paper. She's going to town on a piece of paper. Get it. That was my main concern because I can buckle down and survive, 100 plus degree heat as long as I have access to water and shade. It would be miserable. It would be absolutely miserable and it would be dangerous. Your body's not made to take that kind of heat in the environment that we've built for ourselves. That's the difference. People can take that kind of heat and have for millennia, but they haven't done it in modern constructed buildings. Like, your body can withstand certain types of heat, but when you're in a modern building that's insulated, the heat becomes worse. It's like there are certain things that we have made ourselves more comfortable with that when power goes away, suddenly they're our enemy, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was a real concern for us when the power went out and we knew it was not coming back on. We had to find a way to escape. And hotels all over the state were just fully booked. We found a hotel in Beaumont. Or actually, my brother found it for me. My brother was very helpful in coordinating the escape route for us. And we found a hotel in Beaumont and booked a room. And then he helped me book it because we almost had no phone signal. So we called them to double check that the booking was there. And they're like, no, you don't have a booking. It's like, sorry, mistake. And it's like, okay, so now we don't have anywhere to go. And by the way, it is like nighttime when this is happening, and it was like 83 degrees at night with like 85% humidity. So we knew it was like a ticking time bomb. That's my big concern was the dog. I knew like we were in a ticking time bomb. As soon as the sun comes up, it's going to get to like 100 with 100% humidity. and it will kill my dog. And I was desperately, desperately trying to find a place to go. And eventually we were able to find a hotel in College Station, because that's where my wife went to school, so she knew the area really well. And we were able to find a pet-friendly hotel, and we stayed a week there, and it was really rough. It was a nice hotel, like cheap hotel, but nice staff. But staying in a hotel with a dog for the first time who does not like other people, when you're already waiting for emergency conditions back home to clear up, is very stressful. But I got some filming done, which is nice. Got paper all over my hands now. So yeah, we were able to stay safe, and came back home. I had to do a drive back home in the middle of our week-long stay in College Station to make sure that like the refrigerator and the freezer were cleaned out, because we left in such a hurry that we tried to do everything possible to make sure that our home would be fine when we got back. And one of the things we remembered is like we did not properly clean out the fridge or the refrigerator. So I drove back in the middle of the night to clean everything out, and it was so hot and humid in this room. It was bad. It was bad. It was like being in a sauna, or not a sauna. Saunas are dry; they're not humid. It was like being in a what's the other one? Like a bathhouse. There's a name for that? What is it? It's not a sauna. A steam room? It was like being in a steam room. So yeah, it was nasty. I hope everyone, by the way, just let me say, I hope every one of you are okay. I hope everyone has power. If there's anyone who's watching this who does not have power, everything to the west of the city of Houston seemed to be okay. If you are still without power, somehow you're watching this. Maybe you have power banks, maybe you have generators, maybe you already are somewhere else or going somewhere else. If you have yet to find safety, I would look to the west, towards College Station, towards Bryan, Texas. They had power, they had food, they had water, and everything. There was like a degree of like there was like an air about the place where it was like everyone there knew stuff was wrong. Everyone there was like either aware of or had already evacuated from the south. There was still plenty of room, there was still plenty of food, still plenty of water, but everywhere you went, people were kind of on edge. And you would see like in the hotel we were at, dozens of Centerpoint trucks would come every night, and they would leave first thing in the morning over and over. And it's like that was like one of the bases they were using. So yeah, real psycho stuff. So if you guys are looking for a place to go, I would look west towards College Station, because that's where we had the most safety and supplies. Cobra Jones says, hello, glad to see you in the live stream again. Yes, I wanted to do a live stream just to kind of give everyone a heads up that like filming videos is back, and I've got a couple of videos ready to go. So tomorrow or the next day, I'm probably posting a video, and then I'll probably post another one before the end of the weekend. So you're going to get two real fast. And then I'm going out tomorrow to film a big video for Patreon. And I mentioned last live stream that I was probably going to roll out a new tier of the Patreon that would be like a private charter level of the Patreon. That's official. That's going to happen. So I'm going to wait till the first of the next month to roll it out, to give people the most amount of time in that tier, because it will be more expensive because you are buying a private charter. But that is going to be official. This new tier that will roll out at the beginning of next month will include a private guided trip with me. It will be from, like, you can select your location from any of the spots I've put on the Patreon. So instead of like a normal guided trip where it's like I will tell you where we're going based on, conditions or whatever, you tell me like, hey, out of all the spots on this list on Patreon, I like this one. I want to go to this one. I will guide you to that spot and give you a guided fishing trip there. If it's safe, like if you're like, oh, I really like this spot on this river, and it turns out that river is like massively flooded and I know that spot is dangerous right now, we'll talk about it and probably try to figure something else out. But yeah, it's all much closer access to me. So yeah, that tier of the Patreon, private guided fishing trips with me. I bring the gear, I bring the bait, I bring all that stuff. All the access to the regular stuff on the Patreon. That's my wife just walked in. All the regular access to Patreon, all the Patreon videos, all the fishing spots on Patreon. You get that. You get the private charter with me once a month. They do not expire. So if you buy that tier, and you don't have to keep it rolling. You can if you want to. But what I'd recommend is if you're not, looking for that, buy the tier for the month, then cancel it. And then the way Patreon works, you still have access to the entire month. and your fishing trip with me will not expire. So let's say, for example, you bought the tier and a hurricane rolls through and everyone has to leave for the month, and you're like, well, I didn't get a trip this month because I had to evacuate. Doesn't expire. You have your trip. When you get back, I will fulfill your trip, even if it's in a different month, even if it's months later. The trips that you would get by buying into that tier do not have an expiration date. The only thing I would say, and this will be clear on the Patreon tier when you sign up, if you do sign up, I am not compensating anyone for travel. So I do recommend, if you want to buy that tier, that you buy it if you're like a local to the greater Houston area. Because if you're watching this right now and you're from another country or you're from another state, it will say very clearly on there, it is up to you to get to me to make that trip happen. I am not leaving the state. I am not leaving the greater Houston area to go to like Dallas or Fort Worth or something. Remember, guided trips, the highlight of a guided trip is that you have a guy who knows the area like the back of his hand. I know all the tricks of all these spots. So you wouldn't really want me to take you to a spot that I didn't know anyway, because I wouldn't be of any use to you. So yeah, that's one note I would make sure that you know. And then my favorite part, because it's the most fun, in addition to all those things, if you join that tier, you get a welcome gift from me, which is going to be like a little box that I put together with cool little things that you've probably seen on the show, but they're yours and they're brand new. Really neat little stuff. So that's going up soon. Let's see. Ben Crook says, any crazy fishing spots in Kingwood or Humble? Do y'all guys say humble or humble? I change it like every time I say it. And then when I say it to people, I double think. I was like, how do I say that word? Any crazy fishing spots in Kingwood or Humble? Love the vids. Yes, but it is not a spot that I consider mine. It was actually shown to me very graciously by a patron, and I'm not going to blow up his spot by giving it away. So yes, there are. In fact, one of the videos, I'm not going to tell you which one, but a video from the past on the channel was in this spot. So I've already been to it. I just didn't advertise where I was. Let's see. Token Play says, have you noticed a lot of the big YouTube bass fishing guys trying to copy your formula? Dude, I'm so hyped you're starting a new trend. I don't really watch a lot of fishing YouTube videos, honestly. YouTube is a job, and I try not to spend my free time, on the job. So I do study a lot of other channels, but why would I study a channel who's just trying to copy what I'm already doing? I don't know what trend you're talking about, though. I do know I have started a couple of trends over the years, like a lot of the title trend of "This is why you do XYZ." I started that. A lot of the inner city stuff, weird fishing locations with cast nets, I started all that. There might have been one or two people who had done it before me. You're almost never the first person to actually do something, but you can be the first person to be noticed for having done something. Bruce Lee didn't invent mixed martial arts, but he was the first guy in the 20th century to become recognized for having talked about it. And that's why everyone attributes it to him. Mixed martial arts has existed since Greece, but he was the first one who put it on the map in the mainstream. So he is credited with having developed it. That's kind of the same thing. Like I was not the first person to use that title, but I was the first person in my niche to kind of get known for it. Same thing. So yeah, you know what they say about what's the word? Imitation. The whole quote is kind of mean. The whole quote that nobody actually says is imitation is the purest form of flattery. And then it continues and it says, from those without talent. That's actually the whole quote. So I won't say the whole quote, but it is the purest form of flattery. Nathaniel Elizondo says, good, man. Looking forward to seeing the video soon. Love the Gar fishing vids. I appreciate it. Yeah, I have 2 really cool videos ready to go and out to film more very soon. Everything you hate? Okay, my bad. I'm out. That explains your last few videos. Oh, the hurricane stuff, or what are we talking about? What were the last few videos I did? Last few videos I did really good, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I can't even remember what I upload these days. Again, it's such a job that I check out mentally when I'm not working. Yeah, the last few videos, like, it didn't get as many views as I was hoping, but the last video I uploaded was fire. I'm not gonna lie, that was a great video. So proud of that. The lightning storm one I did not expect to do very well, and it didn't because the formula of the video was so different. But it was such a unique experience, I wanted to upload it. And then the next couple behind that did pretty good. Surprisingly, creek fishing video did great. Where is the... Oh, the one I did in the Houston Bayou recently, the most dangerous fishing secret, that one is doing fantastic. And then the rats for bait one is just insanely good. So yeah, no, I'm actually pretty happy with the way the last couple of videos have gone, minus like one of them. Anyway. Flama says, hey Peyton, got your power back finally? Question mark. Yes, we got it back. What is today? I've lost track of time. It's Monday. I think Friday night we knew it was on. Like we had been updated that it was on, so we came back Friday night. And yeah, we've had it for the weekend, and it has been so nice. So nice to not be stuck in a little hotel room. Can't even begin to explain. Of course, I remember when I was I'm trying to remember what year this was so I can remember how old I was. Hurricane Rita. That was a bad one. The hurricane itself wasn't as bad as like Ike was for the location it hit, or Harvey obviously, practically destroyed Houston. I was shockingly fine the entirety of Harvey. Absolutely almost no impact on me personally. Obviously, it's not the case for many hundreds of thousands of people, even millions of people. But for me, Harvey was a breeze to deal with. The area of Sugarland I was living in at the time got no effects at all from Harvey. And yet this category 1 that just came through just absolutely tore us apart. It's weird how that happens. But I remember Rita, the evacuation of Rita. We went from Angleton, Texas, which is where I was living at the time, to Nacogdoches. And Nacogdoches is about 2 hours and 45 minutes north. And we were dead set convinced, everyone was, because this is what we were being told. What are you going to do except believe the meteorologists? We were told that if Angleton is here, the storm is going to come right over Angleton. And then it turns out it went right to Nacogdoches instead. And I remember the evacuation process. To drive less than 3 hours took us 3 days. We were on the road for 3 days in wall-to-wall traffic, thousands of people driving back and forth across the road, running into each other, wall-to-wall traffic on the highway, on the opposing highway, because people were driving against traffic, in the grass in between. People were like pulling guns on each other. People were hitting each other. It was a madhouse. We had no water. Stores would not let you buy water. They would, they were out. It was horrible. So this go round was, it's been a long time, but by comparison, it was a walk in the park. It was very stressful at times. I was very scared. I didn't have a dog last time, and I was a kid, so all the decision making wasn't up to me. It was with my parents. And I don't know how they did it in the age before, high-speed internet, smartphones, social media. I remember my mother and my father coordinating, because we were trying to drive multiple cars out of there, coordinating across multiple cars by yelling over traffic to each other as they were driving, because they didn't have smartphones or even, reliable cell phones at the time. So psycho stuff. It's amazing how far things have come in terms of how we deal with that stuff. Token Play says Lojo, Lojo. I don't know what that stands for. Fishing with the Norm. All those got. Oh, is that a channel? Fishing with Norm, not fishing with the Norm. Fishing with Norm. All those guys are starting to fish for big gar and big catfish. Thumbnails even look the same. Well, as long as they are practicing. Here's the thing, like, as a YouTuber, like, you don't have any kind of ownership over a like an animal. Like, I can't be like, oh, I wish these people would stop fishing for alligator gar. As long as they're practicing catch and release and they're giving correct information about the conservation of the animal. If they're giving misinformation about the animal, that's a concern. But if they're giving correct information about the conservation status and needs of the animal, then that's a net positive. And that's the entire point of this channel. The point of this channel was never to be the alligator gar fisherman. It was to spread awareness about conservation for a variety of species, and alligator gar by not default, but kind of happenstance really, has just kind of become the species that people associate the most with me. So yeah, if they're spreading good conservation information, I'm all for it. Don't steal my stuff though. Like don't copy me too much. Paul Wilson says hello all. Hello back. Mr. Living Life. Hey Wildlife, how are you doing, man? Doing all right. Doing much better now than I was a few days ago. Syrup Fishing says, it's a shame the water ain't so good there now. Flathead bite is crazy. I got a 25 pounder and a 30 pounder within 10 minutes of each other the other night on some cut shad here in Ohio. That's awesome. We have a couple of good flathead spots around town, and I actually intend to go do some videos for flathead for the Patreon channel pretty soon. So I will let you know if I catch some good ones. Tira's World of Vacuum says, in Webster by me, it was bad. I think my area was one of the hardest hit areas by the hurricane. I saw a transformer explode in front of me. Yeah, it's scary, ain't it? It's like super daylight. The wind, I don't know what it was. I'm gonna be interested in kind of looking into different people's takes about this, because I've even seen like news outlets talking about like this was so unusually bad given how how low the power rating of the hurricane was. And a lot of it is things like the private grid that Texas is on is a nightmare. Centerpoint Energy has horrible, and I don't want to get sued on YouTube, but the word that you're looking for starts with a C and ends with a T and has some R's in the middle. Leadership is of such, and yeah, it was a nightmare, but none of those things are new. So I don't know why it feels like this has not happened for a storm this small before. There's got to be some kind of element that people are overlooking as to why this was so bad. Screwed Up Rebellion says, howdy from Houston. Well, howdy back from Houston. Sugarland specifically. Tien Van Herden. Is it Heerden or Herden? Herden. Tien Van Herden. Is it like, I want to say it with like a German accent, like Van Helsing. Which, by the way, if you guys don't know, Robert Eggers' film Nosferatu. I'm so excited about that. Sorry I haven't catched up on much of your YouTube channel. Big storm in South Africa. Cape Town is getting snow. Hope everything goes well for you with the car. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you watching from South Africa. That's super, super cool. Cape Town getting snow. That's super neat. One of the things, you obviously, if you're from South Africa, you've known this forever, but one of the things a lot of people don't think about is that Africa is so much bigger than you think it is, and it is so much more diverse in regards to, well, really everything. But one of the things people think about incorrectly most often in regards to Africa is they think of this place called Africa, and they don't realize that there's like so many different biomes and just environments within that massive continent. You can literally go to places that look like different planets. If you think you can do that here in America, times 100 over there. It's remarkable. And you get snow in places that you wouldn't expect. It's really, really cool. Flama says, I didn't get my power back until Saturday. This past week has been wild. Yeah, it has been really rough. Really rough. People do not appreciate some of the simpler things in life until it's gone. You know, there's probably a legitimately famous quote on that I'm just not calling to mind at the moment. But yeah, you know, you all know it's true. You don't appreciate what you have until it's gone. And just things like power and water you take for granted on a daily basis. And suddenly when they're gone, your whole life becomes about those things. Every other thing that I was stressing about, like, oh, did this YouTube video get this many views? Does this YouTube video stop moving? You know, will I get enough credit for having been the guy who kind of invented this or that on YouTube? Or will somebody else pretend like they stole it, which has happened before? You know, all these things that are on your mind just go away all of a sudden, and you're like, do I have clean water? And that is all you're thinking about. And it's remarkable to me how there are so many people who think about that kind of stuff on a daily basis. And I would encourage everyone to kind of pause for a moment. Once you get all your necessities back, pause for a moment and consider the fact that there are millions of people around the world who do not have those necessities on a regular basis. And if there is a reason for that that you can assist in helping, whether that be donating to, uh, you know, one or another type of relief fund, I would recommend you look into it, because once you kind of realize just how awful the everyday conditions that some people are subjected to really, really are when you actually experience it yourself, if you didn't already have a strong sense of empathy, you might hopefully develop it for other people. And the older I get, I think the more and more I feel that on a regular basis. I've always had a very strong sense of empathy, but my inability to just kind of ignore what goes on for regarding less fortunate people is something that is I think characteristic of me having gotten older. I've gotten a little bit more concerned about what can I do to help people in need, who don't have basic things that I have. And the older I get, the more I have the harder it is to not think about that on a regular basis. And if you go through a situation like this, take care of yourself, take care of your family. But when you get out of it and when everything's back to normal, consider the fact that for some people, for a lot of people, that really difficult time you just had is the normal. And that's not to say that it isn't bad when it happens to you. A lot of people will misinterpret that. Like, I'm not telling you, like our parents would always say, like, you can't complain because somebody else always has it worse. I hate that. You can complain. You can. But be considerate of helping people who do have it worse. C&D Gaming says, hey, can I join? Of course, always. You've joined. You're here. And continues to say, I'm going through a hard time. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know if it's storm related or anything you want to talk about, but whatever it is, I hope you do find your way through it, because what I've learned over the last 34 and a half years is that even the most ridiculously difficult things, there is a way through them. Tiara's World of Vacuum says, we have power in Clear Lake. That's good. Let's see. Brady Baxter says, in an ideal scenario, where in Australia would I move to? Oh, yeah. If you guys don't know, I love Australia. I always have. I probably suggest moving there to my wife once a day. And it's only partly joking. I desperately want to live in Australia. If I could move to Australia tomorrow, like realistically, I would do it. It's been a dream of mine for a very long time. What part of Australia would I move to? That's the thing that I've bounced around with a lot. And what's interesting about Australia is if you look at it on a map, in Australia, I can't get the shape quite right, but it's not that far off. It's not that far off what I'm doing now, something like that. The vast majority of it in the middle here is uninhabitable, like, for all intents and purposes. So you kind of have the coastline all around Australia. Uh, I don't know. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think northern Australia is where all the crocodiles are, which, I mean, would be both a blessing and a curse. I would love so much to be able to live in a part of the world where I could film animals that I've only been able to work near in zoos and aquarium, or zoos. I work in a zoo, seeing an aquarium, or on TV. I would love that. I would love to be able to see a saltwater crocodile or a freshie in real life. I would love to be able to see a red-bellied black snake in real life. I would love to be able to see, a what's the one? A funnel web spider in real life. What I would not love is having to look inside my shoes for a funnel web spider. A funnel web spider every day in real life. I would not want a brown snake to find its way into my house in real life. That is stuff that happens over there throughout a lot of the country. If I move to, I think it's northern Australia. I'm gonna look up the range of the saltwater crocodile real quick. I could be getting that incorrect. Uh, yeah, because they also live throughout Indonesia. Yeah, coastal Northern Territory, in through Queensland. Queensland is also where the Australia Zoo is, which, I mean, like, that's why I want to move to Australia. Not specifically to see the Queensland Zoo, but because of the influence of the Queensland Zoo. That is where that bug came from in my brain, where I was like, I need to go there. So I don't know. I would think about it a lot. There's also a whole lot about Southern Australia that appeals to me. I don't know. I think all of it would be really cool. I just know I really want to go really bad. My wife has a really good friend who's moving to New Zealand soon, so maybe the coastline that's nearest New Zealand. Flumma says, "Yeah, I had a generator throughout it, but my car got hit by a tree branch. Oh my god, and destroyed my windshield, dented my roof badly. Apparently, it's $5,000 worth of damages, but thank goodness for insurance." Why? Yeah, I'm glad it works out. Insurance is a scam. 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's not covered," even though you pay us an obscene amount of money each month. But if it works out for you, I'm glad it does. Will only end up being a couple hundred instead. Good. I'm sorry that it's happened at all, but I'm glad your insurance is covering that much of it. E Ray says, just chimed in. How do we buy in? Buy into what? Are you talking about the Patreon? If you're talking about Patreon, the Patreon page is the link to it is in the description of this live stream if you're interested. If you're talking about the new tier, the one that's going to have like the guided trip and everything, that won't go live. You won't be able to join on that one until the first of the month of August, because I don't want anyone to buy into a tier with only like a week and a half left. I don't think that would be fair to the person buying the tier. So I'm not going to put that one out live until the first of the month. And there will be a big announcement for it and everything. I just want to let you guys know that the announcement is coming. Like, it's official. I'm going to do it. If you want to buy into the normal tier of the Patreon, which has all the extra videos and all the fishing spots, that is in the link to this. In the description, the link is there. You can follow that and you can buy into the normal Patreon. $5, you get everything. There's also a link in the description of this live stream for my alligator gar rigs with Terraform Tackle if you guys want any of those. If guys are copying me on all the YouTube stuff, it's only a matter of time before they all start pretending like they came up with a circle hook rig for alligator gar, but I came up with that and I designed it and I modified everything specifically and came up with the technique that makes it work and demonstrated that it works, and I'm selling it. So if you guys want one, that's the link to it. Dylan says, what leader do you recommend for alligator gar? Oh, well, funny you should ask. I recommend the Terraform Tackle alligator gar rig that we sell. The link is in the description of this live stream. It is a modified circle hook, which takes a specific technique to set. It is not a normal circle hook. It is a specific technique. And I go over the mechanics of the technique in my video, How to Catch Giant Alligator Gar. And I would recommend buying those rigs. They are specifically designed by me and made by Spencer from Terraform Tackle. And I mean, if you look at my last video, that's what I'm using. And that's why I demonstrate how I unhook it on the fish and how it works perfectly and everything. It's in that last video. Go watch that and you will see what alligator gar rigs you should buy. Don't let anyone else tell you like, oh, you should just use a treble. Oh, you should use the single hook rig. Like, yeah, if you want to be old school, you can do that. But if you want to get, with the future, use the one I made. Let's see. Charles World Vacuum says, are you able to do some more cast net videos? They are the best in my opinion. Thank you. I like the cast net videos quite a lot. And because it's a break for me. It's almost not like a fishing video. It really kind of brings my channel closer to what it's supposed to be. Instead of being like, oh, we're going fishing, it's what is living in here, and whatever that net brings up, it's like a look into the ecosystem. I can't put my camera under the water because you won't see anything, but I can give you a broad sample of what's down there with a cast net. So I do love the cast net videos. When will I do another one? I did one fairly recently, but it depends largely on I need to drive around the city a little bit and kind of see where the flood levels are for different bayous. See like whether or not the flood waters move debris around. I don't want to lose a cast net right now. I'm trying to spend as little money as possible because we spent so much to survive this storm. I want to make it back before I start spending it. And I have a car to buy and all the stuff. But I don't know when I'll make another one. I need to kind of look around the city and see what the conditions are and come up with a good idea I haven't done before yet. John Joe says, go in water. I heard. Well, you know what I heard? I heard that racists can fuck off. How about that? Just had to ban someone from the channel for being a racist. You guys, if you come onto my channel and you start saying shit like that, you're gone, like, permanently. And what's funny is actually the way YouTube does that now is it hides someone. So, like, they don't get a notification that they've been banned. They just they start trying to type comments and they think that they're posting the comments, but they don't actually go anywhere. So it's like people screaming at clouds, which is kind of funny. Fishing with Bird says, "What is your favorite rod company?" Depends on what I'm fishing for. It's hard to beat for alligator gar. It's hard to beat Denali. Big Cat Fever is great. B&M Silver Cat Elite makes a great rod. For bass fishing, I really like what is it called? Daiwa makes everything. Daiwa makes is gold. Daiwa is probably the most complete advanced fishing company in the world, and they make this series of rods called the Laguna series, which are extremely affordable and phenomenal rods. Really, really good. If I'm just going for big fish, and I don't want to spend any money on a rod, and the rod's going to get beat up, but I just want something cheap that works. Ugly Stick is, you can't beat Ugly Stick. If I'm looking for something that has a bit of finesse and power and some like high quality to it, I like Fenwick. Fenwick makes some kind of expensive stuff, but their stuff works extremely well. A lot of people like St. Croix. I don't like St. Croix that much. I find their stuff to be a little overpriced and doesn't really have the backbone to handle the stuff that I want to handle. And there's people who would probably disagree with that. I've seen YouTube channels where guys catch really big fish with St. Croix, but I just not a fan. I like Fenwick for that area of fishing. So those are a couple of answers. Dan Outdoor says, "Is this a full-time job?" Yes, YouTube is my full-time job. It has been for a couple of years. I don't go to work and then fish on my free time. The YouTube channel is my actual job. So when you hear me say things like, "Oh, I don't watch a lot of YouTube on fishing. I don't do this or that," because it's like I'm already doing so much, it's because it's my job. I don't want to spend my free time like watching other people do my job. I do it where it's necessary to study how to get better at it, or to come up with ideas and things. In any profession, when you're trying to be really, really good, you want to study the people in your profession who are really, really good. So I study in that respect, but I don't like spend my downtime watching fishing videos or stuff like that, or videos involving a whole lot of like freshwater stuff. That's become kind of work for me. So yeah, this is my full-time job. It's what I do for a living, which is fantastic. Surf Fishing says, "Would you ever be down to make more guide-type videos for fish species, like your giant gar and bullhead?" Oh, that was a long time ago. Your favorite of mine. I think those could be useful to new people. Depends. Uh, I'm trying to think. The bullhead one I made when I was much, much newer at this. The alligator gar one I made because I think I'm one of the people who knows the most about that, so I have a lot to offer in that regard. When it comes to other fish species, like bass, for example, I catch a lot of bass on YouTube because I find it, the way I fish for them, to be kind of easy. And you'll notice I'm not catching like 10, 12, 13-pound bass because that's something I suck at. I'm very good at catching them up to a certain size, and I go towards bass fishing when I want an easy day in the office. But the point I'm getting at is that I would not consider myself an expert bass fisherman by any stretch, not even any stretch. So, am I the person to make a how-to bass fishing video? No. Carp fishing, I might be able to get away with it. If we're talking about like UK tactics, maybe not, but the Houston or the Texas tactics are a bit different, so maybe that one. It just depends. It would need to be a type of fishing or animal handling or something, because remember, it's not just a fishing channel. It would need to be something that I'm exceptionally skilled at and have enough knowledge to justify offering my knowledge on the topic. So that would be the prerequisite for that. That's why the alligator gar one was the last one I did. N5RAV says, Rita was 2005. Okay, so I would have been about 15. I'm 16 years old at the time. Yeah, man, it seems like so long ago. Almost 20 years. 234 CVB says, how am I after Hurricane Beryl? Pretty good, pretty good. Things are looking up. Did my house have any damage? Well, I live in an apartment complex, and to my knowledge, no, certainly not in my unit, which is nice. One of the only good things about living in an apartment, by the way, is that when the power goes down, the business that owns the place is trying to get the power back on. They're advocating for everyone that lives here. It's not like, oh, my one house is still out. What do I got to do to get people to come look at my house specifically? It's what they call a nest outage, when like the source for the outage is something specific and local. If that happens in your house, you got to figure that out. If it happens in an apartment complex, the apartment complex is responsible for figuring that out. So it takes a little bit of weight off the shoulders in some regards. And if there's damage caused by the storm to the apartment complex, it's very likely that the apartment complex owners will have to front the bill to fix it instead of me specifically. So there are pros to living in an apartment, and luckily we didn't have any damage in our unit. Thank goodness. Token Place says, dude, you're a legend in the gar fishing community. I appreciate that. I do love alligator gar. By the way, I held the shirt up earlier. Shout out to actually, let me get that out of the way. It's my Taekwondo necklace. Shout out to damn, drawing a blank here. That'll come to me. I have really bad ADHD, and I just forget stuff all the time. Tribor Outdoors. Damn. I was trying to remember like my favorite movie the other day, and I was like, John Travolta. He dances. Disco. And it took me a minute. I was like, Saturday Night Fever. So sometimes I'll forget shit all the time. But yeah, Tribor Outdoors does the most amazing designs, and their alligator gar design is the one I wear the most frequently. So go head over to Tribor Outdoors and check out a lot of their stuff. You can get this exact shirt. This is a shirt that has my logo on it on the back, Wildlife, and it's an alligator gar design. So yeah, I'm glad I don't know. It's nice to be known for something. You know, we never started this channel to be a fishing channel or to be known for any one animal, but it is nice that it happens. And if we can lend our voice to the conservation of that animal, that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. I want to be able to make a living off of this, and I want to be able to lend my voice to the conservation of a couple of different species if possible. So the fact that I've been able to do both to a degree, you know, I make a living off of this, and I've been able to lend my voice to the conservation of alligator gar kind of in a big way, to be honest. It has been well worth it. Days Official says, Matagorda fishing, question mark. Maybe. That's actually, hey, what are you doing? I don't know. Can you guys, yeah. What are you doing? Matagorda fishing. It's a bit of a drive. But it might be worth checking out. Here, scooch. Giggity says, this heat, brother, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's absurd. It's just psycho how hot it is, and we're still in July. Just August is probably gonna get worse. It's really brutal. I was laughing real hard when people, and granted, like, if it's tough for you, it's tough for you. You know, not everyone is cut out for the same weather. I would probably be crying about weather in the cold spectrum that people from the north would laugh at. But I was laughing at a lot of like British newspapers a few weeks ago. They were like, the temperatures reached a scorching 35 degrees Celsius, and it's like 70 something degrees for them. And it's like, like I would pay a significant amount of money right now. I would give a significant amount of what I own away if I could lower the temperature in Houston to a permanent 70, you know, some odd degrees. So yeah. But then again, I would also cry, you know, tears of ice if the temperature went down below 40 while people from the north laughed at me. So that goes both ways. Cobra Jones says, going on my first big catfishing trip using a big reel, big sinkers, swivels, 100-pound super braid, 150-pound leader. A lot of logs where I'll be fishing. Do you think that's overkill? No, I don't. If you're going for a truly big catfish, they get big. They get real big. You know, blues and flatheads can, under under exceptional circumstances, they have been known to break 100 pounds. I don't know exactly where you're fishing, but that's rare, like super rare. 70 pounds though is not that rare. That happens. 70 pounds, 50 to 70 pounds, flatheads and blues. If you're fishing in the right spot, you can reliably hook into those fish. So to have a 100-pound braid and a 150-pound leader is not overkill. When you are trying to pull out a catfish that is that big around, you know, and this long, when you're trying to pull him away from a sunken tree, that kind of gear is not overkill, because it is better to be, especially with catfish, because catfish, despite the fact that they have actually a very sensitive face, they're not very sensitive eaters, unlike a lot of other fish. So like they have the ability to be very sensitive, but they don't use it to avoid eating certain baits that often. Maybe whales catfish do. I've seen some underwater footage of whales being quite picky. You know, they actually use pellets for bait for them on hair rigs. But American catfish tend to just smash and grab stuff. That scared my dog. So it is much, much better to fish with gear that is too heavy and catch your fish than to fish light, because you're trying to be too sporting and then you break off. So no, I don't think that's too heavy at all. I would keep that. If you're confident you're going to catch some decent sized catfish, I would keep that set up. 234 CVBD says, "Do I have any kids?" Yes, this one right here. What is my biggest catfish? It was a flathead. It was probably about 45 pounds or so. A really respectable fish, a very, very big fish. Not a like giant, not a 60, 70-pound fish. But it was big. It was real big. I think the title of that video is... I've forgotten. Hang on. I'm going to look it up. Let's go down, down, down. Yeah, I've forgotten the title of that video. Let's see if I can find it. I have to scroll through so many videos. It was so long ago. Hang on. If I organize this by videos that are most popular, the search for it will be shorter, because it was a pretty good video. I think it says, yeah, the video is titled, "Most People Can't Catch a Monster Like This." And I got so many people who were so mad, because they were dead certain that I was somehow talking about them specifically. And it's like, brother, I don't even know you exist. Let's see. Fishcamp TV says, "Do you have any videos where you're catching specks, like speckled trout, on soft plastics? I looked yesterday and couldn't find any videos dedicated to speckled trout." Well, I don't advertise videos based on the species typically. Those videos don't do that well, because why would you click on it when you already know exactly what's going to be caught? The sense of mystery has been one of the biggest advantages that I have found that I've been able to play up in advertising my YouTube videos. So if you go back and you look at all my YouTube videos, you will almost never, there are exceptions, but you will almost never see videos where I talk about, like, this is what I'm catching. The alligator gar how-to, like, the whole point is it's a how-to. There's one where my friend Alex got bitten in the arm by an alligator gar by mistake. Obviously, that one I advertised the type of fish in the title. But most of the time, I keep that stuff a mystery. I do have some videos where I catch speckled trout. They're gonna be older ones. Probably like saltwater bay fishing videos. I caught a really big speckled trout. It was like a 27-inch speckled trout on somebody hooked him and he cut their line, and I saw this is all on camera. You can actually watch this video. The whole thing is on video. I saw him swimming down the jetty. I just saw this float traveling down the jetty, and I was like, "Oh, I'm casting to that float," and I got it, and I caught that fish and was able to get the hook out and release him and everything, and it was a massive trout. That's on YouTube, and that's one of the ones where I advertised the fish because the size of it was so huge. And then I do have some speckled trout videos on my Patreon page. Let's see. Syrup Fishing says, "Have I kept up with the Vans Shoes Company controversy?" I have not, because that was the first thing I've ever heard about it. They used to They used a clearly malnourished and dying snake in their advertisement for some shoes, and now there's a big boycott after they deleted the post. I have not heard anything about that. I will look that up. I don't know why they would use a snake in the advertising for their shoe, but I don't know anything about the shoe. Maybe that's the emblem or something. I don't know. Haven't heard about that. I will look it up though. I've never owned a pair of Vans. I don't like fluffy shoes. Like I don't like shoes that feel big on my feet. I like shoes that kind of feel like streamlined and narrow. Right now I'm wearing moccasins actually. I love these. These are actually the exact shoes that Brad Pitt wears in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. These things are incredible. I love them. Had these for a long time. I like shoes that are form-fitting, not shoes that are like cushy and big. Flama says, could there ever be a day where you're sponsored by a cast net company? I have had offers to be sponsored by cast net companies, but I've turned them down. Syrup Fishing says, I'm thinking about getting the 7'6" medium or medium heavy spinning bottom feeder for flathead. Is the medium too light to throw 2 to 3 ounces of lead plus a bait? If so, I'll get the medium heavy. Definitely get the medium heavy. The medium heavy is what I'd recommend. They are surprisingly supple, the medium heavy, but they will get your fish, man. I caught, again, I think I say this at least once a live stream, because at least once a live stream somebody asks me about that rod, and I always bring this up because there's no better commercial for it on my end than the fact that I used a medium heavy Denali spinning rod to catch a 150-pound sturgeon that was like cracking 7.5 feet long. It was as long as the rod. So you can absolutely catch the fish, and I do think it is heavy enough to sling those baits. If you are throwing really big, like depending on where you're fishing is what it really comes down to. A lot of rods are made to catch big fish. I've caught fish 70 pounds on an Ugly Stick GX2. But it's about the bait you're throwing. Like you're bringing this up correctly, I think. It's the bait that you're throwing that determines what kind of rod you should buy. So 2 to 3 ounces and a bait, the medium heavy Denali 100% will handle it. And that rod will feel a really nice blend. And I don't even work with Denali anymore. But I'm still going to give them a little commercial here because their stuff is so good. The medium heavy Denali bottom feeder rod is the perfect blend of feeling very light and supple, but being ridiculously powerful. Once you have it like a reel on it and you have a fish on it, the sense of like control and power you have is deceptive. Like it's good. So I would recommend getting that one. Medium heavy. Chiara's World of Vacuum says, I gotta go feed my friend's pond since he isn't home. I'll be back soon. Interesting. The pond keeper. What does he have in his pond? Tell me when you get back. If I'm still on. I don't know how long I'm going to be on this thing. Flama says, ever think about live streaming while out on the water as a way to promote Patreon and interact with chat when waiting for baits? I get asked this a lot. I typically do live streams when I don't want to film on the water. There's a couple of reasons why I don't like that. Number one, I find it to be... When I watch, I don't watch it a lot, but occasionally one will pop into my feed, and I pop onto somebody's live stream when they're fishing. It is so boring. It is so boring. I don't know why, but it just is to me. So it's kind of a personal thing. Also, if let's say I was doing a live stream, let's say I caught the fish of a lifetime on the live stream, it affects like your filming of that fish or whatever animal you're catching for future videos. Not only will a lot of your subscriber base have already seen it by the time you upload the next video, so maybe they don't click on it as fast because they're like, oh yeah, no, I saw that. You're compromised in regards to how you're filming because you're trying to mind a live stream camera and whatever else you're doing at the same time. So either you're compromising your main filming camera for the film you're thinking about in the future, or you're ignoring your live stream camera. Because if I hook a 300-pound alligator gar again, I am not going to try to stay in the live stream frame. I'm gone. Like, I'm going to go catch that fish. And I'm not talking to you when I do it. I'm going to try to make sure I get that fish in. So the chances of catching something spectacular and having that be ruined by being occupied with the live stream is one of the reasons I don't do that. I think one of the things that is important to look at There's a lot of the live streams you see where guys are live streaming while fishing. They're not catching anything spectacular, and they're probably not going to. They're catching like very small fish here and there, and if that's the kind of film that you want to see while I'm live streaming, maybe I'll do it at some point. It just doesn't appeal to me that much. I'd have to give it some thought on how I'd want to do it. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I could do a live stream with somebody else. So like somebody else with me, so that when a fish was on, I could live stream, like be cameraman or have them be cameraman while doing the live stream. That might work. I might be able to do a collaboration as a live stream. Walker's Big Adventure says, "Didn't you catch a gar that was 3 inches short of the world record?" Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I think the title of that video is "I caught the biggest fish you've ever seen." Yeah, and went viral all over the world. And I did a bunch of interviews with news stations from different continents all over the world, and was on TV all over the world. And yeah, it was a good time. But yeah, I did that. That's the title of the video. I caught the biggest fish you've ever seen, and Joe Rogan watched the video on his podcast. Like it was a huge deal. I got recognized everywhere I went for months, and people still get so mad when they see the title of that video, and they'll chime in. They'll be like, "Have you ever seen a sturgeon? This is not the biggest fish I've ever seen." It's like, brother, it's not the biggest fish I've ever seen. It's an alliterative title. It is media literacy required. Like, it's just a title. Like, God, it's amazing how many people still get mad about that. It's funny though. Yeah, that video changed my life. That video absolutely changed my life. Serp Fishing says, "If not a species guide, what about a certain fishing tactic guide? I know the channel isn't super fishing centric, but techniques on how to float fish the bayous or method feed for carp or something." It kind of a more specific version of some of the ones I've already done. Possibly. Could do that. Alex Smith from Fishing with Alex, formerly Carl and Alex Fishing, has a fantastic YouTube channel titled Fishing Tutorials. That is almost entirely that. He is really, really good at that. So I might consider doing something like that. Let's see. 234 CVB says, "Howdy from Chris from Trinity, Texas." I love Trinity. I used to stay there as a kid. We would drive over to Lake Livingston and fish some like docks for like little fish. When you're a kid, you catch anything that's exciting. Let's see. Dove for Dinner says, "Hey, hello back." Dove for Dinner says, "What's the biggest fish you've ever caught?" The one I was just talking about, the alligator gar that was pushing 300 pounds. 8 feet 2 inches long, had a girth of about 47 inches. Phenomenally big animal. Serp says, "Do you still have the Denali sponsorship?" No, we stopped working together, I want to say, last year. Just business directions go in different ways. Still a massive fan of that company. It was not, every time I stopped working with somebody, people were like, "What happened? Oh my God. Like, what did they say to you?" Like, it's like we just had to go different directions because our different businesses were like, "Hey, I kind of want to do this. Hey, I kind of got to do that." It just happened. Buy Denali. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to buy Denali. I have nothing against them. Their stuff is awesome. Buy their stuff. They're great. You'll still see me use them like almost every video. Let's see. Get Spooled says, "Have you been gar fishing lately?" Yeah, my last video was a gar fishing video. Not since the hurricane came in. I've been doing other videos that you'll see very soon. Oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. I do have a video that has a lot of gar in it that will be coming out soon. It has something else really cool in it that I'm not going to say, that you guys have been all asking me for, that you'll see very soon. Adrian Harding is the GOAT. Yo back. Cobra Jones says, "Really appreciate hearing your opinion on my setups. It's awesome to hear advice from a fellow fisherman that has experience." Yeah, don't be afraid to go too heavy. At the very least, start kind of heavy, and if you notice you're not getting the sensitivity that you need, or the fish are kind of aware of what you're doing, just scale down a little bit. But it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Surf Fishing says, "Where do you think the next world record gar will be caught? Will the record ever be broken?" Yes, it will be broken. I actually know exactly where I think it's going to be caught, but I'm not going to give it away because I know where certain people have been catching certain fish, because Certain people might not have been careful enough in the photographs they took, and there was a giveaway in there that I was sharp enough to see, because I do that all the time. My eye picks it up a little bit. So yeah, I kind of have a feeling I know where the next world record's going to be, but I'm not going to say because I don't want people to go to that spot and kill all the fish. Token Play says, what do I think of the Hellcat catfishing rods? They're very good. I have held them. I have not owned one, but they are excellent. Really good boat fishing rods too. The handle on those is a little bit shorter than I like personally because I do a lot of long casts with mine. That's one of the reasons I like Denali because they have longer handles. But especially if you're fishing from a boat, the Hellcat rods are really good. They really have a really nice color to them too, and they show up on camera. Get Spooled says, also, what's my favorite style of rig to use for gar? The style of rig that I sell with Terraform Tackle. I either bottom fish that, so I'll have that rig, the modified circle hook with the 400-pound, 500-pound braid. I go back and forth. Big barrel swivel. I usually go 100-pound monofilament on that. Probably about 10 feet or so, at least. And then a little bit more if it's on a multiplier reel. And then I have a FG knot connecting it to about a 100-pound braid as a main line. And I will put a float with like a stopper knot and beads on it if I'm surface fishing, or I'll just fish it free line like that if I'm fishing on the bottom. I don't typically use weights when I'm alligator gar fishing. In my experience, alligator gar are very good at telling that there's a artificial weight there, and they will drop a bait much faster. So I free line my baits when they're on the bottom. Sadie says, does Buffalo Bite Fishing Champ still do fishing? Been trying to contact for an hour. Yeah, absolutely. He 100% does his charters. Definitely keep trying to contact. Go through his Instagram if you're not able to get to him through the website. He's very active on his Instagram. I know he would be very, if he has the freedom, if he's not booked fully through, because he books very fast. If he's not fully booked and you want a tour, he will be very happy to talk to you to give you one. So reach out to him on Instagram. Tell him I told you to reach out on Instagram. He absolutely still does those tours, and he's the best in the state. Syrup Fishing says, I've got a 7.5 foot, 7'6" medium heavy casting bottom feeder, and that's a great setup. I'm using some 7-foot medium heavy rod as my spinning catfish rod, and it's just undergun for the fish I catch, so I figured you would know Denali best. Yeah, their heavy action rods are a little stiff for my liking, but they do work. The medium heavy is, if you're going to go with their rod, that's what you go with, I think. Get Spooled says, I'll live stream with you. Well, maybe. I'll have to figure out the structure for how to do it. Flama says, I can be your cameraman. That guy reached out. Thumb, yeah. Reached out, and I did respond, but I haven't heard anything else since. Yeah, so because I don't want to give all the details of the situation away, I think I told you, or did I? I will tell you. I will tell you some of the details about why you may not have heard back. He's got to check some stuff that is kind of up in the air. And I don't think he'll know the details to give you until he gets those details about that situation that is still up in the air. I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I can tell you right now he's trying to troubleshoot a problem that he has to find an answer to before he knows what to say back to you, or to me for that matter. So he's busy working on something. Official Fuzz. I'm trying to read that. My eyes are bad. Official Fazlava. What's up, Peyton? Not much. Just back from storm evacuation. My dog is getting angry at children playing outside. Everything's back to normal now. Fish Camp TV says, what do you think about the places like Texas City Dike and Seawolf State Park doing the pay to fish thing? I haven't heard of this. Seems like Texas treats fishing like an addiction that needs to be cured. Not cool. I actually don't know what you're talking about. I've not been to either of those places, except one time I went to the Texas City Dike, and that was ages ago, so I can't really remember it. A really bad storm hit when I was there, so I couldn't film. So I'm not really certain. I'd have to know the details of the situation to know how I think or feel. I mean, both of those places have kind of been known as a fishing destination, like one of the bigger Texas fishing destinations. Even though I think there's loads of spots with better fishing than both of those areas, that's what they have become known for. So they're going to get a lot more of the touristy style fishing, and obviously they're going to try to make some bank off of that. I depends on where the money's going. If the money's going to a private institution, then yeah, I don't like that. If the money is going towards, conservation or the betterment of the species that people are fishing for, then I don't really have a problem with it. Because you got to raise money. Conservation costs money. That's something a lot of people don't really realize till they work in the industry. There is not a conservation program that has ever been successful that did not cost a lot of money that came from a real world source somewhere. Whether that was a business selling something, creating something, or a very kind donor, conservation costs money. So if that's what they're using the money for, then I'll be on their side. If that's not where the money's going, then I might be a bit pickier about how I feel about it. Official Fazalava says, what do I think is the best way to release a shark? Because it's my first time catching a shark. How should I handle it, etc.? Carefully, as these white lines running down my thumb will attest to. Be very careful. And when they grab you, it is not fun. Best channel that I know of for sharks in the greater Houston area, the Texas area, is the I think it's the Houston Fishing Team. What is the actual name? I don't think that's right. H-Town Anglers. That's what I was trying to remember. H-Town Anglers. They have a fantastic info about catching sharks and all that. Speed is your friend. Speed is your friend. Cautious speed. So when you catch a shark, let's say it is, over 3 feet long. Let's say you're cracking 4 feet and up. You want to keep it in the water as much as possible. If it's on the smaller side, lifting it out of the water for a moment is fine. Sometimes you have to have control over it to unhook it. You want to keep it in the water as much as possible, only removing it for the unhooking process. Barbless hooks are a major plus when doing this. You can use rubber band or tightly tied cotton thread to keep your bait in place without a barb. A barbless hook is going to come out so much faster. It will save a shark's life. It will also probably save a couple of your fingers. If you do this enough, or if you're doing it without experience, let's say your first shark is 8 feet long, you want to be able to get that. You want your hands near its mouth for as little time as possible, especially if you're new at this. So having a barbless hook means you can get that sucker out immediately. Obviously, follow all the good regulations about shark fishing that are in place now. Circle hooks that are inline, not offset. So like if you look at an inline circle hook, it's like this. Offset looks like that. You want your line to be a minimum of 80 pounds. More is better. You don't want your shark breaking your line. So there's a couple of basics like that I would recommend. Safely releasing a shark, though, is barbless hooks. Keep the fish in the water. Let the fish, release the fish on the fish's own time. So don't catch the fish, oh, I got it, and shove it off. Let that fish sit in the water. Let it recover. That shark will tell you when it's ready. They will kick off when they're ready to go. But yeah, keep those gills submerged. Keep his mouth submerged. Ever thought about fishing? This is from Random. Ever thought about fishing the Amazon? Yeah, frequently. I want to catch an arapaima real bad. I would love to. Also, the snakes that I could show in the Amazon would be incredible. I would love to show a speckled caiman in the Amazon on YouTube. That'd be amazing. So yeah, I'd really like that. Fish Camp TV says they charge $20 to fish. Again, depends on where the money's going. Cobra Jones says, I love circle hooks. Which ones do you recommend most for these big old catfish? I'm a big fan of, hang on, I'm going to leave frame. I'm going to leave frame for a second because I just bought them, and I'll go grab them for you. Watch out. All right. I recommend these, and I do not have any affiliation with this brand, but if you want to just go to the local store and buy some, Team Catfish makes phenomenal circle hooks. These are incredible hooks. Very strong, very sharp. You might want to take a file to the tip on some of them. I picked this package out. I inspect packages pretty carefully before I buy them. So these ones were all kind of perfect. But occasionally you'll notice the tip bend a little bit. Just take a file to it, like a diamond file. But if you want the best quality for your money, I would recommend going on Terraform Tackle and getting their catfish rigs. He makes rigs specifically for catfish, and Spencer has caught trophy-sized catfish all over the world. So this is somebody who doesn't just go fishing. He targets the specifics with gear that he makes. So Terraform Tackle, again, you can follow the link to Terraform Tackle through the one in this description. You can use the rigs for alligator gar that I've made. They work on catfish too. They're advertised on Terraform Tackle as a gar and catfish rig. Or you can follow through to the main site and look at some of the other rigs, because he has other types of big fish rigs as well that work very good. Patrick Silver says no flounder fishing. Like on my channel, not much. There is flounder fishing on the Patreon channel. I think there's some on like the very early videos I've done, I think. Surf Fishing says Team Catfish hooks are my go-to. They're not super sharp for long though. Yeah, still bring a file with you to touch them up. Yeah, always bring a file. That's just solid advice, no matter what hooks you're dealing with. But yeah, they are shockingly strong. The giant alligator gar that I caught was on one of these. This exact type of hook, this exact size. It was modified the way I do the modified circle hook. So it was modified to my liking, but it was one of these that I caught it with. So if you're wondering, are they strong enough? Yes, they are. Could I ever do a live stream on your tackle bag or what you carry in it? Or is... No, that's absolutely not secret. I mean, I'm advertising all the tackle now because I work with Terraform Tackle. Yeah, I could do that actually. Not right now because I don't have all my stuff packed. I'm packed up for a big shark fishing video. So remember how I was advertising the new Patreon tier where you'll get like private charter and all this stuff? One of the things you get is a private video. So if I say like, oh, this 2 people can join this tier, there will be 2 people who not only get everything that's on Patreon and get a welcome present from me and get a charter, they will also get their own private video. And I'm going out to film the first one of those tomorrow. So all my stuff is shark based right now. I would actually think that's a good idea. I think the next live stream I will show you my backpack and my bag and how I set it up for the alligator gar. That's a good idea. Gregory Stevens says, hello wildlife, great work, keep it up. What time do we have? 8:20. Okay, we'll go a few more minutes. This is Token Play. Would I ever try filming content from a kayak or a John boat? I actually just sold my kayak. I have a few videos in the past that I made with a kayak, and I wish I had a kayak. What was I trying to do with that? I was raising money for something. And I can't remember what it was, but I raised the money for it. And one of the things I did is I sold my kayak because I wasn't using it enough. And I was like, I need the money for this other thing more than having a kayak. And that was another thing. I needed the space in my garage. So I sold it. So yeah, I like kayak fishing, but I don't have one at the moment. Whenever I film with Alex, I film from a John boat. So Buffalo Bayou Fishing Champs, that's Alex. I've done a couple of videos with him on the main channel and on Patreon for alligator gar. In fact, this is a really good video we did that is only on Patreon. And that's the video where I'm very certain that I hooked a bull shark in the bayou. He uploaded a short of that on his Instagram, but that video is from a video he was filming while I was filming a video with him, and we are fairly certain that I hooked into a bull shark in Buffalo Bayou when I was with him. So that video is on my Patreon. So yeah, I have some boat fishing and kayak fishing videos from Patreon. Some of the Florida videos I've done for snakehead were from a kayak. If you look at my channel, there's some videos in Florida. I'm trying to find it now so I can give you the title. Oh my! I had them organized according to popularity, but I refreshed the page without realizing it. And one of my videos with like 20,000 views from the past came up, and I was like, no, that is not my most popular video. What's going on? Got scared for a minute. Nothing falls into this canal and gets out alive. That is the title of that video. That's a good title. It's a good video too. There's a couple of days I spent in Florida, and a lot of the fishing is done from a kayak. That's a really, really good one for kayak fishing. Fama says, "Yeah, I figured it was some troubleshooting on that side. Yeah, he's trying to work something out, so he'll update us on how that goes fairly soon, I think." Surf Fishing says, "Have any YouTube comments or interactions ever gotten to ever gotten to me badly? I know, especially earlier on in a career, it can be rough on somebody. Obviously, if that's a sensitive topic, don't answer." The answer is no. The answer is no. Here's the thing: my professional background outside of YouTube for a long time was safety, security, and guest service. I did that all professionally for a very long time. So, like in addition to all the like the conservation education stuff I did, I also did a huge stint doing those things. And I have had people pull guns on me. I have had people throw stuff at me. I have had people threaten to kill me. I had somebody threaten to kill me and I don't want to say too much because I don't want my assigned, I don't want the algorithm picking up keywords and sending them off to the three-letter bureau that you all know and love. But I had somebody threaten to do an, and I was named as the main target. I've had people say all kinds of vile, vile stuff to me that you cannot imagine. Cannot imagine. I had somebody try to stab me with a wooden stake once. I had to help the police arrest a dude once for trying to break into a donor event. He was just wearing like a pair of shorts and nothing else and screaming about how he wanted to go to the donor event and was climbing the fences and stuff. So, like, the things I've seen and been through, I had to hop in a cop car once to chase down after a dude who was like tried to assault a zoo guest, and he was like having an overdose on what was that stuff they were into back then? Kush, which is like some kind of like synthesized drug with like gasoline. Like I've jumped into a moving police car in a pursuit. I've done that. And so like when people say stuff to me on YouTube because they're trying to be mean, it's like it is not going to work. It's going to bounce right off of me. You can say the most vile thing imaginable to me. It will bounce right off. It's not going to have an effect. Sorry. So the world I come from, that was every day, and it was in your face. In your face. You had to respond to it professionally, face to face with somebody, screaming at you, spitting at you, threatening you, wanting you to solve all the problems of their life, acting entitled as if every bad thing that has happened to them in their life is because of you right in this instant. I've had people try to get me fired. I've had people demand to speak to like people like and demand that I get fired in front of them, like screaming about it. Like none of these things that people say on YouTube bother me at all. At all. In fact, you'll notice I don't do this as much anymore because I'm trying to disassociate from YouTube a little bit more than I have in the past. And it's not because YouTube's getting to me, it's because being obsessed, not obsessed, that's not the right word. Having my time consumed by the internet is something that I'm starting to enjoy less and less just in general. I want to live my life a little bit more like I don't have the internet. Like obviously I'm still doing this video. I'll still be doing uploads and stuff, but when I go to work and then I disassociate from the internet when I'm not there. That is kind of what I'm trying to do a little bit more of. There was a full day when the storm came before things got bad where like our power went out, but it wasn't like we weren't in emergency mode yet. So like I just spent the day reading a book and I wasn't online and it felt amazing, like almost emotionally amazing. So I'm trying to stay away from like being online too much anyway. So I'm not responding as much to people, either positive or negative, who comment on my YouTube channel because it's more of an internet thing than just a YouTube channel thing. But yeah, the criticisms and stuff that people throw at me, like yes, after all, like a couple of months, the overall like effect of people constantly insulting you or asking you for things or picking at you here and there, like as a whole, it gets tiring. It's like holding up a giant weight. But never has a single thing that any one person ever said to me bothered me. Like it just bounces right off. In that regard, I'm bulletproof. And for anyone who's interested in getting into YouTube, I would recommend considering how you will deal with that, because not everyone comes from the background of having to have dealt with that on a daily basis, person to person. I was emotionally like bulletproof from these kind of attacks before I was on YouTube. It was something I dealt with professionally every day. So when I got into YouTube, it was like a downgrade. It's like I used to deal with stuff like this in person all the time. Like now that it's on the internet, it's like my job got easier. But if you're not used to that kind of thing, I would recommend just when you're at work, be at work. When you're not, don't. Don't live on your YouTube channel. That's some advice I would give to you if you're new at this. Really, really, really savor the time away from being online. Let's see. Official Fazilava says, we're going back to the sharks here. Because I'm targeting 4-foot sharks, you have 45-pound line. Ooh. Spooled on my reel, and my shock leader is 80-pound line. Is that enough? Depends on how you're fishing it. If you're going from shore, I would say you need some thicker line. You'll probably want to get thicker line just to be... I know Florida passed a law about this. I don't know if Texas did. They might have. If you are specifically targeting sharks... Because remember, if you're targeting 4-foot sharks, there's no reason that a 6-foot shark won't take the bait anyway. You can't tell a shark it can't bite. So you need to be reasonably geared up for a bigger fish than you're targeting taking your bait. Especially in an area, like if you're beach fishing or you're saltwater fishing. It's a little bit harder to specify which type of fish you're targeting. So I would, that main line, I would get some thicker main line. I would go, bare minimum, I would go 65. Bare minimum. 80 is better. Like 80-pound braid. Yeah, I would say 45-pound line is, if you're not fishing from a boat, 45-pound line is too light for sharks. Because you never know. It might be a 6-footer that takes that bait instead. Fish Camp TV says, what's the best hacks or tips to make kayak fishing and filming easier? Oh, I'm not that experienced at that. Like, is it better to put the anchor behind port or starboard? Is it always in the way? The kayak nose points the wrong way. Yeah, so the obvious answer to that is get a pedal kayak, because you can adjust with your feet. You can control the direction of your kayak as you're fishing or filming with your hands. Pedal kayaks have kind of changed the YouTube fishing kayak game. But I have always... I primarily fish from a kayak with a head cam. So even if once I have a bite on, essentially what I'll do is I'll, just no matter which way the fish is moving, I just kind of align my camera with where the rod is going. As far as, I know what you're talking about though, like when you're trying to get your kayak to go this way, maybe you're targeting this area here and it starts drifting. Like, yes, that can be annoying. It becomes easier when you're in a canal. Like that video that I mentioned a moment ago when I'm in Florida, I'm in a very small canal. So if my kayak starts turning at any point, I literally just kind of like move up to the bank and my kayak isn't turning anymore. But yeah, honestly, the answer to that question is pedal kayaks. That's why they invented them. Flama says, pay to fish. Sounds like what private property guys are trying to force us to do before that completely escalated the situation on our trip. Yeah, so, I mean, here's the thing, though. Galveston, what did we say it was? The Texas City Dike? Or the one in Galveston. You know the one. I mean, technically speaking, like, it's city property. If the city sees a chance to create revenue off of it, they're probably going to do it. I mean, it's not different than paying to park at the seawall. If you want to fish in Galveston, you got to pay to park at the seawall. It is very annoying the way, I hate the way people have privatized access to water. That bothers me a lot for a lot of different reasons. But It doesn't strike me as being out of the ordinary. Like, annoying, yes. Inconvenient, yes. Like some weird thing that came out of left field, no. I'm kind of surprised it didn't happen a long time ago. Get Spooled says, if it hasn't been addressed yet, what brand and size of line do I prefer for gar? For braid, I like Daiwa J braid or Suffix Performance braid, which is not the same as the Suffix 832. For a main braid, I either go with, like the mainline braid, I either go with 80 to 100 pounds. Both work very well. And then the top shot of mono is Suffix Superior, and I usually go 80 to 100 pound on that. And then I have the Terraform Tackle Alligator Gar Leader, link in the description. Alex Potter says, what is the best bass fishing in Houston? Beats me. I'm not a good bass fisherman. If that's actually not exactly true. No, not the thing about me not being a great bass fisherman. That's true. I'm not great at it. I'm decent. I'm not great. But I do know where one of the best spots is. But again, it is a spot somebody graciously shared with me, not one that I'm going to blow up on here. Cobra Jones says, awesome, thank you. I'll definitely get some of those or some of these to add to my arsenal. Awesome. Let's see. Mason Ballard, am I the only one who catches turtles while bottom fishing? No, it happens all the time. You get used to the way they move depending on the species. Red-eared sliders, snapping turtles, softshell turtles, all three have a different type of movement when they start messing with your bait. And if you do it long enough, you get used to recognizing how they're moving so you can retrieve the bait, recast. Consider going with a second rod and have that be your distraction rod. So put your main bait exactly where you want it, but then put another rod out and move it around a bit, get the turtle's attention, and when they go to it, pull it back in, put it back out. Basically, you're keeping their attention over here while your main line is sitting undisturbed. So having a distraction rod helps. Random says, all you have to do is get to 61 or 91st Street Pier to catch big sharks easy. Ever fished on the Galveston piers? I have. I'm not a big fan of pier fishing. It's overcrowded when you're trying to film. People are always trying to insert themselves into your film. It's amazing the difference between how many people will try to give you advice or be helpful, bro, when you have a camera on versus when you don't. People do not care you exist when you don't have the camera on. The moment the camera comes out, everybody needs to talk to you for some reason. And it's very annoying. So I stay away from piers. Also, it's hard for the fish and it's bad for the fish to release them from a pier. Getting them up and down is not good for the fish. So if I can catch those same fish from shore, which is what I'm going to go try to do tomorrow, I tend to do it from different beaches in Galveston, but not the pier. All right. The Real Angler VR, the Real Angel VR says, is it tiring to fish for gar? You mean physically? Yes. It can be exhausting. It can take you all day, 105-degree heat. You can lose your body weight in water. You can have heat exhaustion. You can fight the fish through mud up to your waist. You have to jump in the river to land it. You have to fight an animal that can be twice your weight. It is absolutely exhausting. But if you do everything right, you can catch a fish that will go famous around the world. Yoda the Goat says, dude, I love your content. You should come to North Carolina. Eventually, I'd love to. I appreciate that you love the content. Thank you for saying that. All right, we'll do a few more of these, and I got to get out of here because I got to cook dinner. Do you guys ever get bothered by anyone who dislikes fishing when they see you out there? I know in some urban areas, if people see you fishing and they don't agree with it, they will pester you. Not really that often. The reason people get bothered most of the time, it's private property issues. I've had that happen once or twice. It's not really a big deal. Those kind of things only become a big deal when you want to make it a big deal. I mean, conflict is almost entirely ego-based, and the extension or the length of a conflict is almost entirely founded upon how much you feed into your personal ego. It's the need to feel victorious over another person that prolongs these circumstances. So when somebody comes out and you're fishing, they're like, get out of my property, you can't fish here. You could easily Just be like, I don't care what this person thinks at all. I don't care if they think they bossed me around. I don't care if they think they won. That's the thing. People get bothered when they think other people won over them. But if you don't care about that, and you're like, okay, just go somewhere else. It's over. It's over. And the only thing that you might have, like if you're saying, yeah, but, the but is almost always addressing the idea that you think you've lost, and that is an ego thing. If you truly don't care what other people think about you, if you are that detached from your ego, you will have a much easier time dealing with these types of situations. Even if people are really, really mean to you, really, really obnoxious, really, really entitled. And this, by the way, it not only is effective, but it's like killing someone with kindness. When you tell someone like, okay, my apologies, I'll go. A lot of people, that's like sucks the soul out of people. A lot of people wanted that fight. They wanted to have a conflict. A lot of people start stuff like that because they feed off of conflict. And when you don't give them that conflict, not only do you make your life easier, but you make their life harder. So it kind of goes, it's beneficial for more one reason than one. So when people are like upset that you're fishing here or there, one of the easiest things you can do is just don't feed into the narrative that you have to quote unquote win. You can effectively deal with so many situations of conflict by letting another person think they have achieved what they want. And if you are secure within yourself, if you have a sense of self, like a sense of security within yourself, if you are self-secure, that will not bother you. It is only if you are an insecure person will the idea of another person believing they have won, only then will that bother you. So your personal level of security comes into play here. Token Play says, have I ever had a moment that made you just want to quit? Yeah, frequently. Frequently. But you got to keep going. Or you don't have to keep going. Honestly, that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. There's no rule that says you have to keep going. Do what makes you happy. The only thing I would say is that if you have people who depend upon you, like if you're married like I am, or if you have kids, then it gets even more serious. If you have people who depend upon you, you might have to keep going for the sake of other people. But if you get tired of something, there is no shame in stopping doing that. Changing careers, who cares? Again, this goes right back into the last thing I was talking about. Like, oh, people will think I quit because I couldn't handle it. Who cares? Who cares? There is no reason why you should feel like you have to stay in a business or a job or a career path or a school path that isn't fulfilling the life that you want, because you only get one. You only get one life. Don't think that you owe society or you owe other people's expectations anything. If you're doing something, even if it's something you thought you would like, if you're in the middle of a career that you thought you would like and you're like, this is not what I thought it was, I'm unhappy doing this, do something else. Just do something else. And I'm not saying it's that easy. I'm not saying you can just switch on a dime. It can be kind of difficult to just do something else. But don't let the idea that it is a failure or that like to uphold expectations you must persevere. Like, don't let any of that stand in your way. You get one life. Live it the way that you want to live it. As long as you're not hurting other people or letting people who depend upon you down, and I mean like children that depend upon you or your significant other that depends upon you, as long as you're not letting those people down, don't let other people's expectations about your life get in the way at all. Let's see. I'm going to actually leave. There's a few more comments, a few more questions, but they're all things I've addressed at length. Or like the question down there about gar fishing. Like, what do you think my opinion about gar fishing is? Bow fishing for gar is. Like, obviously, I think it's a horrific, barbaric sport that needs to end. But anyway, I'm not going to get too much into these other questions. I think the note that I left on is pretty good. I hope you were all doing okay through this storm. And now that it's kind of subsiding, I hope you got your power back. Again, if you don't have your power back, everything to the west seemed to be better than everything to the east and to the north of Houston. So if you're in the Houston area and you need power, you need somewhere to go, look west. Hope you guys are doing all right. I'm going to check out, and I will catch you guys later. Hang on a second. Yoda the Goat, can you email me? Yes, the email is on the About section of my YouTube channel. So when you click About, you can find my email, wildlifefishingshow@gmail.com. You can email me there. All right, everybody stay safe. I'll check you guys later. Look out for the new Patreon tier coming out. It's going to be great.